Harriet Tubman, a great leader with an inspirational legacy. I'm Abby McNaughton.
And I'm Ray Russell.
I want to tell you the story of my great-grand auntie, Harriet Tubman.
This is my story. The story of a slave girl who grew up to lead hundreds of slaves to freedom. Some people say I was one of the greatest female leaders in the Underground Railroad. When the Civil War broke out, I was a spy, soldier, and laundress. My fight for racial and gender equality left an inspirational legacy for my people. I always had a thirst for freedom, and when I married a free man named John Tubman in 1844, I longed for the liberty he had. 5 years later, I suggested we run away together, but he was afraid. So, packing up salt pork, cornbread, and a quilt and a bandana, I headed north by myself.
Oh my goodness, honey, come look at this.
Yes?
Yesterday, March 8th, 1850, Senator Daniel Webster delivered a speech in front of Congress saying he supports the fugitive slave law.
The compromise proposed by Henry Clay, but Webster always opposes Clay.
Do you know what this law will mean for us and all the other abolitionists? Citizens are now required by law to report any runaway slave, and runaways can be plucked off the streets, even in free states, and taken to court. If a judge finds them guilty of being an escapee, he'll earn $10 from the government. But if he finds them free, he'll only earn $5. Plus, if we're caught helping a slave, we can be tarred and feathered, fined, or even put in jail.
Wait, are you saying the godlike Daniel agreed to that?
Yes, but at least California will be admitted as a free state, and slaves can no longer be bought or sold in D.C.
But this will make it much harder for conductors and slaves. How could he do this?
He's probably just trying to keep the nation together. We're barely holding on as it is. Up and down the nation, there are whispers of secession.
There must be some other way. Say, is there anything about New Mexico and Utah?
It says no mention is made of slavery. It is assumed the territories will decide that for themselves. I hope they make the right decision.
Come on, girl. We need to make it to the next station before dawn.
Can't we just rest a little while? I'm so tired.
It's Saturday. The newspapers won't publish any wanted posters until Monday. We need to get us away as far as we can. Hurry up, the others are waiting for us.
I don't think I can go much further.
Yes, you can. Here, hand me the baby. Come on, we have a lot of ground to cover.
On second thought, I'll just head back. The master, he won't even know I've left, and I promise I won't snitch.
Either I lead you to freedom or I put a bullet in your head. Your choice.
Okay.
I provided food, directions, and rations to any slave I conducted to freedom. Tension between the North and South didn't stop me from leading my people to the Promised Land. However, the decision made in the Dred Scott case by Chief Justice Roger Taney made things much more difficult.
The words people of the United States and citizens are synonymous terms. The question before us is whether people of African ancestry compose a portion of this people and are constituent members of this sovereignty. We think that they are not, and that they are not included and not intended to be included under the word citizens in the Constitution, and can therefore claim none of the rights and privileges which that instrument provides for and secures to citizens of the United States.
Taney's verdict in March 6, 1857 backfired when it only made us abolitionists cling even tighter to our dream of freedom. I went back south many more times to free slaves. Despite the peril of dogs and slave catchers, I kept following the drinking gourd. The publication of Uncle Tom's Cabin in 1852 had also added fuel over the fire to slavery. Finally, the Civil War broke out when Confederate forces attacked Fort Sumter in April 12, 1861.
Ah, Miss Tubman, I've been looking for you. I heard your speech in Boston of your experiences as a conductor on the Underground Railroad, and and I just knew I had to meet you myself.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And you are?
Forgive my manners. I'm John Andrews, Governor of Massachusetts.
How can I help you, Governor?
I heard your stories of your brave 19 trips south and how you single-handedly rescued over 300 slaves.
That's all true, sir. I never lost a passenger and my train never went off the rails.
Well, with this war raging down in the South and our soldiers in a bit of a stalemate, I was asked to help recruit spies for the Union Army. It was my intention to have you be one of them. If you could lead a handful of slaves through the wilderness with $10 and stale bread, imagine what you could do with trained soldiers and the right equipment.
Sir, I'll help in any way I can. Whether I'm a laundress or a soldier, I'll see this war to the very end.
I do believe I've made the right decision.
I see you didn't wash the pile of clothes like I asked an hour ago. And whose turn is it to cook dinner? No shortcuts, girls. We don't want our men getting sick. Didn't I tell you to wash the sheets? We don't want our men getting sick on bloody blankets. Excuse me, but do I know you?
Yes, ma'am. It's 1862, and 7 years ago this month you helped me and my child escape slavery. I heard you was in Port Royal helping out the soldiers, and I just knew I had to come see you again.
I'm so glad you decided to volunteer. What's kept you busy all these years? You've been enjoying your freedom?
Yes, ma'am. The white folks up north give orders much more nicer.
Give orders?
Yes, and I earn nearly $8 a month. I know it's not as much as some of the white folks, but
You're just as good as those white people. You should be paid as much as they are. If you let them walk all over you, they'll walk over all of us, including our children.
You're right. I guess I ought to be enjoying my freedom rather than be stuck in some new kind of slavery.
That's right. Now excuse me, I need to talk to some of the soldiers in the new Negro units. They don't seem to realize that they're just as good as some of the white soldiers too.
Oh, Miss Tubman, whether you're leading a raiding party or working with the laundresses, people will look up to wherever you go.
I continue my work in Auburn, New York, with a home full of family and charity cases. Some people didn't understand how I kept the whole house fed, found time and money to organize charity events, and kept fighting for racial and gender equality. But that was me, fighting for what I believed in. Some of my fellow abolitionists turned their attention to women's rights to vote. They worried that the fight for Negro rights would overshadow the battle to obtain women's rights to vote. Former slave and suffragist Sojourner Truth believed that both were important and that women would earn their voting rights. Other women, like Susan B. Anthony, weren't content to wait. But I kept my eyes fixed on what I thought God wanted me to do.
Yes, it's her story and we keep on telling it. Down through the generations it keeps being told. We carry her legacy more than any monument in Cincinnati or museum in Dorchester. Harriet believed that everyone should be free, and she fought for that by rescuing as many slaves as she could. She dedicated her time, money, and health to the cause. Despite the dangers of the fugitive slave law and the verdict in the Dred Scott case, she continued to lead hundreds of slaves to freedom. Then, when the Civil War had started, she led raiding parties and spy missions. A letter from a Union soldier to a superior said that she went deep into enemy lines and brought back important information regarding the enemy's position. And she inspired many African American men to join the Union Army. Even after the war had ended, she made herself known as a leader in the suffragist and civil rights movement. Aunt Harriet's legacy of hope and perseverance keeps leading us on even today, inspiring us to follow our own northern stars. That's her story.
That's my story.